It's a beautiful day in the gamerhood, a beautiful day for my gamers. Would you be one? Could you be one? Shout about thunder, but don't despair. This colony's breeding great robbers. Would you be one? Could you be one? If the 80% mortality rate works for you, for a few bucks a month you can sign up and have the Hobbs to you. So let's make the most of another Sunday. Brew up some coffee and play it my way. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my gamers? Won't you please, please won't you be my gamers?
All right. Hey, everybody. Oh, shit. Watch out. TJ started the music again. Welcome, everybody, to Mr. Hobbs' Gamerhood. I am Jason Hobbs, and tonight we have a special episode of a live stream. We're going to record Hobbs and Friends number 73 with Ryan Thompson. Oh, wrong button. How's it going, Ryan? Oh, what the? Oh, there you are. Good. How's it going, buddy?
Hobbs and Friends. The guy that got a hold of me to get me on this said that I was going to be on Spellburn. What the hell?
Spellburn. Burnick strikes again. That son of a biscuit.
I guess as long as I'm here.
As long as you're here, you might as well have a little fun, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm gonna fire my agent.
That guy's making way too much money.
Oh yeah. All the nothing I pay him.
All right, so we got a few people hanging out at the Twitch stream. It looks like we might have somebody hanging out occasionally. Oh, Fred Daniel hanging out on the YouTubes. So what's up, Fred? Good to see you, buddy. All we have is Beast King 1980 coming straight out of the Middle East. So we're at an international crowd already, Ryan.
All right.
I don't usually talk to anybody unless they say they're here. So if they don't, they don't. This is the pre-show. If anyone has any questions or anything for the actual episode, feel free to type them in whatever chat you're in, be it YouTube or Twitch. Hey, Brian in the park. And we will get to it during the show. If not, we'll get to it in the post-show. We haven't been around here doing a Hobbs and Friends episode or anything on the Gamerhood in quite a while. Trying to make things fit, as Ryan can attest. My schedule is trash. So it's not an easy thing to make things work, but we're trying, guys. We are trying, and today we're hoping to have an awesome, fun episode of Hobbs and Friends here for you. I got a great guest, and I think we have a pretty cool topic, and maybe we can convince you to buy Ryan's new Kickstarter when we talk about it on the show. Has anybody got any questions before we get started? I don't see anybody talking.
Nope.
Maybe we'll just start it. We kind of started a little bit later than I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guys, when you do stuff like this, sometimes you have to update your video drivers, apparently. Who knew? All right, so if you ask any questions, hey, Anarch456. I don't know if you know who that is, Ryan. Thanks for
maybe.
All right, thanks for following, man. Backing the kidneys, he said. Does that help? No.
No, not off the top of my head.
You never know what you're going to get at one of these things, buddy. I don't know how many of you've done, but
yeah.
You never know. It's live, right? So who knows what people are going to do or say? Even me.
That makes it more fun. All those back when I used to do Swords and Wizardry Appreciation Day, all those DSR episodes were live, and we had all kinds of people come out and saying all kinds of stuff off on the side. So you know.
That's about the size of it, but it's all right. All right, guys, if you don't have anything that you want to talk about pre-show, we'll do the show and we won't interact with the chat. But if you hang around for the post-show, we'll answer any questions that we didn't get answered before that. It's Just Lanny. Does that help, Ryan? You know who Just Lanny is?
No.
No?
Maybe? Maybe. I don't know why I'm drawing blanks on anybody right now, but hey.
He's nervous He's nervous. He doesn't know how bad it's going to be on this Hobbs and Friends. He hasn't put an episode out since I don't know when. So who knows?
Glad I'm the guinea pig.
Yeah, you're back, man. You're gonna bring it back. You're bringing the sexy back to Hobbs and Friends. So
Hopefully.
all right.
Hopefully.
Without question. There's nothing to worry about. So like I said, we're going to do about a 40-minute episode of Hobbs and Friends, and then we'll be back for the post show if anyone wants to hang around. So in about 15 seconds, if you're ready, Ryan. Ooh, I should get what I'm going to say. Oh, I used to write this out and everything. Oh well, I guess we're just ad-libbing.
All right.
All right. I got to do this though. There we go. All right. Hey everybody, welcome to Hobbs and Friends. I am your host, Jason Hobbs, and today we have a wonderful guest for you. I know we haven't been on the mics lately, but don't let that be held against my man, the guy behind Appendix N Entertainment, and I think he has a lot to do with UConn if you've ever been to that. He's none other than Ryan Thompson. How you doing, Ryan?
Oh, I'm doing okay.
Are you having deja vu?
A little bit.
I've only asked you how you're doing like 4 times in the past hour.
We've been on here for an hour, so you know.
You think that we'd have those things passed or something? Oh, dude, you know what? We have to do it again. You know why?
Why?
I forgot to start the recording. I knew there was something I was forgetting, guys.
Nice.
This is what you guys get to see when you're on the Twitch stream is how professional I am, which means not at all.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we only did about a minute. We only lost a minute there, so that's not too bad, I guess, of our lives, since we've already been doing this for an hour. All right, so I guess we'll start again. Any of the 9 viewers out there in Twitch land or YouTube have anything to say, or forever hold their peace when I start this dang thing again, if I actually do start it this time for real.
We'll get this eventually.
Yes, we will. We'll get her done. So I'm going to start it at 11. All right. I'm going to come back to that, Alan, later. I'm just about to start the show here.
I am going to get up if we're going to mention UConn so I can drop the dates this year.
Yeah, why wouldn't we? All right, I'm really starting now. At 11:10 we'll start. All right. Hey everybody, welcome to Hobbs and Friends. I am your host, Jason Hobbs, and I know it's been a while, but we are back in the mics today, and we have a very special guest. He is the man behind Appendix N Entertainment, and he also is, the big boss at UConn, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, here you go, Ryan Thompson. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing all right. I am far from the big boss at UConn.
Oh, okay. All right.
I run the OSR track at UConn.
Oh, that's right. I actually knew that, and I forgot, man. All right.
I'm not the big boss. Yeah.
I'm not sure if we should do the deja vu joke again. It was like double deja vu.
already started it. For those of you that have been following at home on Facebook, we've been having a lot of technical difficulties.
We have been having some technical difficulties, but we're here and we're going to get this thing done. So I guess we'll start. So far on Appendix N Entertainment, let's talk about maybe what you have done. I think for me, I've definitely recognized Hidden Hand of the Horla, but do you want to talk about any of these products at all or anything?
But Hidden Hand of the Horla was the first thing that we put out in 2008. It was originally actually written for OD&D, and I was spinning off my own OD&D clone at the time. And then like a year or so after I put that out, I was putting out my first Kickstarter, and Gavin kickstarted OSC about the same time, and I started getting a hold of it going, oh, I already liked BX Essentials, and OSE looked that much better and more promising. And he dropped one of the things that I really appreciated about when I used to work with the guys who work on Swords and Wizardry, the option to have ascending and descending armor class, because both of those things tend to be hangups for people sometimes. And I find that I have a lot better chance of recruiting people that only have played newer editions of D&D to old school games if they've got the option to have ascending AC in there someplace, right? So
yeah.
That turned me on. And then, midway through that Kickstarter, he dropped that he was going to be doing options of having advanced classes in BX. And that just kind of did it for me, because that was a whole lot of the stuff that I was doing with my own OD&D clone was already going to be built into this BX clone. Going, well, I might just put my stuff out for this, because this looks great and the layout looks fantastic. And yeah, I need to redo everything that I was thinking about my products now.
Yeah, I mean, if everyone stopped working on their own little heartbreaker, I mean, they'd have a lot more, I don't know, bandwidth to work on other projects, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The hidden hand of the Horla, wasn't that one of Dyson's like hand things or something?
The 3 adventure modules I have out so far have all used various Dyson maps, because they just kind of inspired me. So I stole them for my own purposes, right? They're all his commercially usable stuff to this point. So, but all of them were his things, and I got inspired to use them. That one was very inspiring because it was the weird hand tower, and it fit with an idea I already had. So I ran with it. We're currently probably halfway sold out with the 4th printing that we just did of that last fall.
That's exciting.
It's gone through 4 printings. Each one's been a little bit different with new things added to it. The first one was OSE, not OSE,
OD&D.
OD&D, and it was all just public domain and stock art. And then when I brought it to OSE, I had my own art made for it, which I feel like everybody who's been in any of the OSE groups out there on the internet is extremely familiar with the goats pointing at the hand cover, because I have spammed that to death on there, done by a good friend of mine, Stacy Joy, who just does great artwork. You can get it on a shirt.
There you go.
Anybody ever wanted it on a shirt? Get it on a shirt.
Exciting.
Appendix store.
So if you go ahead.
It's gone through 4 printings. I'm almost positive we're going to sell out of this one before the end of the year. Next year, just to throw something out there that's not the product we're talking about tonight, with all of these vinyl album things going around from Mark Borg and a few other things that I've seen, the various vinyl album modules that are out there now, for the 5th anniversary of Hidden Hand, I'm probably going to run a Kickstarter. In fact, I've already found musicians that are interested locally here in Michigan that want to do we're going to do a Dungeon Synth album to go along with it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's the plan and probably do some special edition, maybe with a variant cover that's going to be sort of it's too small to be leatherette, but at least screen printed in foil on something, right? So it's going to be a special edition as opposed to the versions that have been out there recently. So
awesome, man.
That's the plans with that, because it's popular enough that I've sold out of 3 printings and going into 4 now, which is kind of exciting, being really small out there.
Yeah, I mean, well, it got she's reviewed by Bryce, right? So it must have had some kind of something, right?
Oh, it got fried by Bryce. Bryce hates my stuff, man. Everything that Bryce has reviewed of mine has just gotten skewered. But I think that's more than half of everything Bryce reviews anyway.
For sure.
And Bryce's crap reviews of my stuff have gotten me more sales of my stuff. So
right, exactly.
One of the only reviews on Drive-Thru of Hidden Hand says that he went there because of Bryce. He doesn't name Bryce by name or 10-Foot Pole. He says, I came here because of a reviewer that that just skewered this thing and said it's horrible, and it's actually really, really good. So,
yeah, I don't necessarily follow what he does, but anything that gets on there is going to get some sort of press. So it's good. It's good if he does. I mean, that means that someone was talking about it and it got big enough for him to see it. So that's cool. All right. So I always talk about how we know each other. I know that you just mentioned that we had met each other at GaryCon, but I think I knew you from G Plus quite a while before that.
We did. We personally met in person at GaryCon, but yeah, we knew each other back in the G Plus. I miss G Plus, man.
I see a lot of people talking about G Plus. I also see the newer guys saying, "What's G Plus?"
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
I mean, you have to be really newer to not know what G Plus is. I mean, that's
3 years.
It only went out a few years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a long time, really, gaming wise.
Hey, man, stuff that came out in 2005, I'm still calling new stuff. So you know.
Yeah, everything is relative, I guess.
Yeah, 3 years feels like nothing to me. You know.
I hear you. All right, man. So why don't we talk about what we're doing gaming wise? Do you want to go or you want me to?
You go ahead first.
All right. So anybody who actually talks to me or pays attention to the Gamerhood and not only listen to Hobbs and Friends podcast knows that I started a new business and my schedule is crazy. So I haven't been streaming as many games. I haven't been running as many games, but I've been trying to play some games. So I've been playing OSE with Zach Pierce in the setting from Troll Lord Games Aired, which is pretty interesting. And I recently just returned to a second edition D&D game called Night Below on Dungeon Muser's channel. I'm trying to figure out a way to run more games, and since scheduling is so difficult, I'm setting up a new hex crawly urban crawl type of game that can be played with 1 to 6 players, and it's going to be a super fast pickup game. So if you possibly want to be in on one of the possible players in that game, get in touch with me, get on the Discord, and I'm calling it for a few players less. That's about it, man. Do you have any comments on any of that, or you want to just go ahead?
You're playing Night Below. That's pretty sweet, actually. I've never played it, never run it. I finally own it, and it's been within like the last 2 years that I got it. I can't actually recall if I got it when we were in lockdown here in Michigan. I feel like maybe I did, because it usually goes for, if you get a physical copy, it usually goes for a fair price. A physical box, I think you can buy it as a hardback or something on drive-thru now. Yeah. But, I wanted the real thing, the way it was presented with all the maps and everything, right? And I think that I got it with some of our, government money that we got when we were going through everything back then. But I don't know that for sure. But that's awesome that you're actually able to play something that's that. Because I feel like for the later end of the TSR era, that's kind of a legacy product.
It seems like D&D. It. I mean, I don't even know how many sessions we're on, maybe 250 or something, and this is a streamed game. I haven't played in all of them. It's it's not really drop in, drop out specifically, but I can tell you there's been a lot of sessions, and I don't know, I'm playing a 7th level elf elementalist or something like that. I don't know.
Started level 1?
Yeah.
And it's a 2nd edition game?
Yeah.
You've been playing for a while.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. And I mean, once in a while it switches out into he calls them war stories or something. I think last night he converted stuff to a Star Wars 2D20 based on one of Modifius's games or something, and ran something for May the 4th using kind of the same characters, but Star Wars-y. We've done it with Pathfinder 2 and just a few different things. Like I say, I haven't played in every session, but anyhow, what about you?
Oh, I have not had a ton of gaming lately. The last time that I played anything D&D based, we were starting a once a month Saturday game at a friend of mine's house who few of us met up. We didn't meet up. There was a funeral in the fall, and there were a bunch of us who have done all kinds of other stuff together, right? And we're all gamers and have all had our respective gaming groups. We've all known each other for 24 years, but none of the people in this group ever played together, right?
Wow.
And we were at this funeral for a friend who passed, and we're sitting there going, we were all talking about gaming. It's like, how have we never all played D&D together? We've all talked about D&D at social functions and whatnot. It's like, how have we never done this? So we decided to get together and start doing it. We had 2 sessions, and then somebody's work schedule kind of flipped, and then somebody went out of the group, and it's like, well, now there's only 2 players for a while, so we got to figure this out. Plus, I'm a single father, and my kid's a teenager now, but still I try to do some things with her on the weekends that she's at my house, so it was kind of like let's do once a month on a Saturday that we can all get together. And with adult life and everything, that's difficult to get people all together, especially when you're trying to do once a month Saturday. You want it to be a longer session, right?
Yeah,
it's only once a month. So that was the whole plan, was we're going to do this, and we're going to play like from 6 to 8 hours like we could when we were younger, because it's a Saturday. And what's going to stop us? And then well, yeah, life, right?
Schedules, yeah, adulting.
Yeah, we've got a bi-weekly, and I'm doing air quotes for those that are listening to the recording, right? Big Eyes Small Mouth campaign with our Friday group. We alternate campaigns between my friend John and I. He'll run a game for a while, and I'll run a game for a while, and we do it as a bi-weekly thing. He's been running this anime game, Big Eyes Small Mouth, for a while, but we've kind of had that on hiatus for a little bit over a month now. We have gotten together, the people that have been able to get together in that time, and played some board games, but no role playing in over a month for me. No, I'm sorry. I lied, because there was a bachelor party a week and a half ago that I went to a brewery and ran a one-off for a guy's bachelor party a couple weeks ago. But that's about the only D&D I've gotten in, is that one-off, right? I ran OSC, and I ran Tom Wilson of Throwing Games, Crypt of the Dog Witch. So that was fun. And
is that in his Back to Basics thing, or what is that? What is
no,
that?
that's one of his independent games. He released it. I think it came out as a physical product, either at Gamehole or NTRPG. I don't remember. It was either at North Texas or Gamehole. He put out a limited edition printing where there were only like 50 of them available there. You can download it through his store on drive-through, though. I downloaded it and just printed off my copy, right? Because for a while I was printing all my own zines that I was making anyway. So all his stuff is actually formatted to be zine size anyway. So it worked out. Maybe not all of his stuff, but most of his adventures are, right? So printed that off and ran it there. It was fun. It was definitely fun. It's supposed to be the first in a 5-part series, but I don't think any of the rest of the series has been excuse me. I don't think any of the rest of the series has been done yet.
Wow.
So yeah, ran that. And like I said, not a whole lot of role playing going on. This week I've got something that's almost LARPish that I'm going to. Kind of, sorta. It's not really gaming at all, but up here in Detroit, there's a gallery that every year around May the 4th has these people that do this crazy cosplay stuff where it's all really, really good looking stuff, turn their entire gallery into the Katina at Mos Eisley. And it looks legit when you are in there. You feel like you're there. And they have bands and a Star Wars themed burlesque show and all kinds of stuff going on all night for like 4 nights, right? It starts on May the 4th and goes this year. Last night's going to be Saturday. I'm going Saturday. I've got a whole get up put together because they require you to be in costume. It's like a Ren Fair for Star Wars fans, right?
Nice.
So
in a bar, though.
In a bar, yeah. So I've got a whole get up planned, and I'm going to drink with people dressed in cool shit. For those that actually are tuning and watching, I freaking had a blaster made.
Cool.
You can't really tell the color on this thing, but it's sweet.
Is that a heavy blaster?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah.
That's an old.
It's going to be on display in the game room after this all, right? So, and then if I go next year, I'll carry it again next year.
There you go.
You know, But yeah, that's the closest thing in like the past 2 weeks that I've got to gaming is this thing on Saturday, which is just going to be me drinking in a bar, dressed in some Star Wars shit. But it should
All
be
right.
fun, right? I've seen pictures of it from the
Sounds like a
place,
blast.
and
I
it
mean,
sounds. These guys have a speeder, have like a land speeder that they built that's going to be there. I've seen pictures of the land speeder. I'm like, oh, they built a full size land speeder. That's crazy, right?
hey man, I mean,
So yeah,
you're running D&D at a bachelor party, so who knows?
yeah,
The future
yep,
is just a crazy place.
yep,
All
yep.
right. Cool. So let's do a quick everything about you segment of the show where we try and learn something about me and the guests that the listeners may not know. I don't know if I ran out of stuff about me because this looks pretty lame. Like I mentioned, I started a new business. I've been doing more random screeding because I'm trying to get some more content out there. Random Screed is my personal journey anchor podcast where I complain about stuff mostly. And yeah, we're doing another episode of Hobbs and Friends, and I'm hoping to get back to every other week schedule. What about you, Ryan? You got anything other than that you're a Star Wars LARPer?
Not a Star Wars LARPer, but I guess maybe I am now. I don't know. uh, but no, local friends will know, but nobody. I don't think that there's anybody in the gaming community that knows this about me. Like 15, 16 years ago, there was this local bar I used to hang out with and do promotions for on MySpace. Remember MySpace?
Oh yeah.
Back then, right? And while I was there, I started writing on my MySpace blog. There was this. I wrote this weird. It was like like steampunk in the world of fairy tales. If fairy tales moved into the Victorian era and became steampunk, right? But all the main characters in it were people that were friends of mine or people from the bar. And the actual stories, I wrote it episodically, like when I would get home from the bar, half drunk at night, right?
Mm.
Or the next day or whatever. And the stories were these stories about the characters, but everything was loosely based on the drama going on with the bar crowd, right?
Okay, I
So,
see.
and it was called The Life and Times of Dr. Arthur McGillicuddy, right? It actually had a big following on MySpace. I had something like 1,000 people that came in to read the damn thing every time that I did it.
And
It
that's
was
a big following for MySpace.
yeah, it was a thing for a while because there were people, outside of my area. Like everybody in the bar that I knew was reading it, and then there were other people in like the art community around here who knew people that were in the stories, so they started reading it. We actually would go around to different dive bars around here, and I would write little segments that were like, I don't know, weird little things that were in between episodes that if you wanted the whole
Oh,
story,
I see.
you'd have to go to these bars or find somebody that would take a picture of what was on the bathroom wall.
Cool,
It
man. That
was
sounds
it was
fun.
it was a weird thing. And I mean, the Stacy Joy, who does a lot of my cover art, was drawing her character and other characters and posting them on her MySpace. It was a time, and we had like our whole little group was involved. My friend Mike wrote a prequel story about the character that was based off him. It was a thing, right?
All right, people.
It's
There you go.
yeah. I may have to put that all up someplace again and see how utterly ridiculous and terrible it actually is. Because in my mind it was great because I had like 1,000 followers reading this thing on
Right.
MySpace, right?
That's
But
impressive.
yeah, so
Nice, man. All right, cool. So let's get to the main topic. So we know, or maybe not everybody knows, but I know that you have a new Kickstarter called the Creature Collection. But the way that this started was you being inspired by specific art from Evelyn M. Right?
yep, yeah, Evelyn.
Moreau.
I'm a backer of her Patreon, and she puts out very regularly just stuff that she sketches while she's trying to get into the swing of getting to
Warm
her
up
commissions
sketches,
and
right?
whatnot.
Yeah.
What's that?
Like warm up
Sh-
sketches.
Yeah, some of them are warm ups, some of them are things that actually come out better than warm up sketches
Mm-hmm.
that she just doesn't have commissions for, and she puts it out there and says patrons can use this for their works. it's similar to how, Dyson does his commercial maps and whatnot, so it's stock art that we get for being patrons. And some of it really, I was looking at some of them going, man, that's a really cool looking thing. I want to stat this thing. Oh, I want to stat this thing. I want to stat this thing too. And so, I started thinking about doing that. I'm going, I've got enough that I could put together a zine that's just like 24 of these. I could do more than 24 of these. I could probably do most of these things, and be inspired and do it. And, I was thinking, like, I know she gets money from the Patreon, but I'm thinking for the amount of stuff that she's handed out to us, because sometimes, like the past few days, there's just been like, here's something, here's something, here's something. And it's like, you're probably not getting enough money for what you're giving us per se, if you were to actually have, done these for commission. So I got in touch with her, said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this with your art. Since it's going to be featuring just your art in this book, I want to pay you something for it. So I told her, I said, you give a lot to the community for next to nothing. I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of us on there that are only backing you for like $1 because it's the minimum or whatever, because I know how people are on Patreon. And then I'm sure there's also a lot of people backing her for a good and fair amount too. But when you back, if you're on Patreon, you're probably backing multiple Patreons too. So you have to figure out where your money's going, and some people get less, So I just said, whatever the actual take is at the end of the Kickstarter, I'll give you a third of that, which is, so that was I figured I wanted to give back, but I also wanted to use these creatures. So, we are using these creatures. And then as I was going through, looking at the creatures, I started seeing ones that were a little bit more, some things that were more human, and some of the ones that weren't more human, but just looking at them going, oh man. And recently, my mind has also been on the first product I was published in the OSR was Petty Gods, back when that first came out, right? I had a couple gods in there, a couple magic items, and going, we haven't seen or heard about Petty Gods in a while. That should be a thing. Just like when you open a monster manual and you've got sections on demons and devils and celestials, we should have a Petty God section now, because they're not really full-on deities and demigods style gods, right? They're lesser than that. They should have a section. And I'm going, you know what? And that's one of the stretch goals, is adding sections of Petty Gods into the thing. So we're actually close to the first 4 Petty Gods right now. We blew through, it kickstarted, it's been going for a little bit over a week and a half now. We blew through the first 11 stretch goals. I had low tier stretch goals that were all just adding a couple extra creatures, right? We added 22, so we're up to a total of 46 creatures, and we're about $150 off of hitting the first Petty God stretch goal, which will add 4 Petty Gods, I believe, is my first stretch goal in there. And then every $500 for a couple stretch goals is going to add another 4. So we have a chance of getting 12 in there. If we get to the Petty Gods, which I'm sure we've got like 20 days to go right now.
Yeah.
If we get Petty Gods and we hit 200 backers, I am going to also drop an appendix in the back detailing just a small tidbit of information on clerics of those Petty Gods, and each Petty God that gets in the book is going to have a spell specific to clerics of that Petty God.
All right. Sounds cool. Sounds like you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good information. Oh, sorry.
And we're at the time of this recording, we're just over $1,500 away from making this our first hardback.
Nice.
Which my fingers are crossed on that. I'd like to see this one be a hardback, because it's going to be, even with the creatures added, it's long enough to make it a sizable hardback. Right now, it's going to be longer than any of the OSE little books that come in the box sets. I think those clock in around 88 pages. This one's currently at about 100 once you factor in the OGL at the end and the title pages and everything. Currently, and with those Petty Gods, it's going to add quite a bit there.
Awesome.
And after we hit that, who knows, right?
Right. Yeah. I hope it sounds. I mean, it sounds great. I hope everyone backs it, and I hope they all enjoy it. I usually talk about. So the reason I really. So in this situation, right, it was art that manifested the text for monsters. I think historically in monster manuals, especially the first one, it was probably they did the text first and then they did the art. Probably, right? What do you?
Yep.
I mean, this is kind of just like a theoretical discussion. Like what? Which do you think is better? Is one better than the other, or like is one more powerful? Like if the art actually manifests the text and you're writing text to follow art, which I've done a ton of times, just like if I find some cool looking monster on the internet and then I want to put it in my game, now I'm just going to write text to make it fit that picture, right? What, like, do you think there's any in the original Monster Manual? I don't know how familiar with it, if you have one that you're more familiar with. First of all, this is even a side note. I feel like monster manuals in general are kind of blowing up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that? I mean, what makes people shift to monster manuals now? And then also, like, if you have any thoughts on that, art manifesting the text, or does the text manifest the art as far as monsters and in monster manual type books go?
I mean, as far as that part goes, probably a little bit of both. Because I don't know in the original Monster Manual which way it was, because
some of those are based on the little plastic figures, right?
some of them are based on the plastic figures, and that was art that influenced that, right?
Yep, text.
But
yep.
Who first? I do want to know, and I'm sure that somebody out there actually knows this, right? Because your question raises this. In OD&D, gnolls are not specifically called out to be what we know gnolls to be now, right? Because gnoll is a word that was taken from a creature in a Lord Dunsany book that is nothing like what we know gnolls to be now. And the gnolls in OD&D are very vague as to what they are. You know, it does not say they are hyena men or dog men or anything like that, right? And
that's interesting, yeah.
Now
and
we
why
know
were
that they
orcs
are,
pig-faced,
so,
or why they stopped being pig-faced, or why did kobolds originally dogs and then became lizards? You know,
yeah,
I mean, those
and
are all good questions.
kobolds are another one, because a
Yeah.
kobold is pretty much like a little mountain-dwelling gnome, you know, that lives down in the mines in folklore, right? But and I'm curious, because those things are vague in OD&D, and then we get to the 1E Monster Manual, and they become something else entirely. When Gygax was writing the Monster Manual, did he see art concepts for those things first, or did, you know,
Yeah.
Dave Trampier or somebody draw a hyena man, and Gygax just goes, "That's a gnoll. That's what a gnoll is now."
I don't know. That's a good question.
These little scaly dog guys, these are kobolds, and then wrote that in. That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I was fascinated by it when I saw your Kickstarter, and then I started to think about that. I was like, how did that happen? Do you have a favorite monster manual? I'm not saying just D&D, it could be any game.
Oh, I do like I see, on the one hand, I love a good monster book. On the other hand, I like the ideas that we get in games like DCC, where
There's only one.
yeah, I like that idea too.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up also reading bestiaries and like the books on monsters and cryptids and crap like that, you know, at the local library. So I like a good monster book too. And in my own campaigns, I don't typically go just there's only one DCC way. I usually use standard fantasy creatures, and then the weird is weird because everything is common, but that thing's weird, right?
Right.
Like Hidden Hand of the Horla. I've got goat people in there. Goat people aren't necessarily standard tropes for D&D, but goat people are a pretty standard fantasy trope going back to, you know, RuneQuest and then Warhammer. You know, you've got your goat beast
In the
folk.
UK is what you're saying. In the UK, they're common.
Well, yeah, and
so we're
I
duck
like
men. But
well, I've got ducks. Ducks were in my Lost Classes book, and they are going to be coming out again when I revamp that. I've got ducks in my campaign. Ducks and Franks are common races in my campaign. So, you know, I like beast folk in general. Lost Classes also. I did another beast folk class because I did Planet of the Apes chimps in it, and Anyway,
Talking about recent books that are just coming out. I don't know if you know who Courtney Campbell is or anything like that, but he just came out with a recent book. The Kickstarter I just got my PDF or whatever, and it was basically ecologies created by bees. So it's really talking about. It was mostly written on G+ with people putting in input when he was asking about ecologies of certain types of creatures or whatever, and it's just like a compilation of that. But do you prefer your bestiaries? Was a very good word. Do you prefer your bestiaries with this ecology type of stuff, like back in the Elminster's ecologies in the Dragon, or do you prefer them just like maybe with some stats and like as little as possible?
I like it with stats and a little bit of information. I used to really think back in my second edition days, because they had that ecology section and everything in the second edition monster manual, they had like the full page of information, and it was small type that told you all kinds of stuff because it gave you habitats and societies and ecologies. And they were short, and I liked that and thought that was the way to go at the time more than the 1E monster manual, but I've since reverted a little bit because I'd rather have creative control in my campaign, right?
Which you always have. You don't have to use that, but
it's true.
It's
but,
creating something for people to have expectations, and then they're going to do those expectations in your game probably, which could be different, and then you have to explain why it's different. I get it, but go ahead. I feel like I interrupted you.
So, but yeah, the way that it's laid out in OSE is pretty good. I kind of use that format. Slightly more robust when I did Oktoberfest with the horror movie themed monsters that were in that, because I've got the Blob and Triffids and Plague Zombies, which the Plague Zombies were actually in Solar Sanctuary of the Cannibal Corpse before that, but they made sense to have, George Romero Plague Zombies, right? It's a Halloween book. But yeah, so I followed that and added a little bit more meat to those in that book. This book, Creature Collection, is going to be a little different, which you can see in the sample spread for the one monster that I've been sharing around and have on the Kickstarter page. Because these are all new things that you've never seen anywhere, right? Like if you want to know more about Triffids, you can go watch the movie. The movie's probably streaming free. It's the cheesy old piece of, sci-fi schlock, right? You can go watch the original Blob movie or the 80s Blob movie or whatever to get more information about the Blob if you want. These are all new. They are not standard D&D creatures that everybody already knows. They are not creatures that you can go watch a movie about, because I'm making these all up based on the art that I'm seeing in Creature Collection, right? So in this, you're getting a 2-page spread. The first page is strictly the name and a full-blown full page of Evelyn's illustration of whatever the creature was, right? Because a part of this is also highlighting her art, So, and then the second page for each creature, you're going to get a standard OSE stat block, with the stat block. The short description you would get in their variation of the stat block, and all the special abilities and whatnot, like it was in a normal OSE monster book, right? But then I'm also dropping a few paragraphs of information in there about the creature, be it ecology based, or there's not going to be a standard format for it. It's just going to be whatever makes sense to this creature. An undead sword wielding beast being like the sample page is going to be different than, say a chimeric, creature that lives in the mountains someplace. You're going to get different information, but I'm trying to give some information about what I was inspired to create this thing, because you've never seen this one before. This isn't like, I know what a rust monster is. I've been playing D&D for 40 years. I know what an owlbear is. This is something new. I'm going to give you some information, and you can ignore that or use it as you see fit, right? But you're getting what I was inspired to create from the art.
Awesome. It sounds like a great product. I'm going to have to go back, and I haven't backed it yet, but I'm a late backer.
Are you one of the 267 people that's following it?
No.
I have. Yeah, I looked at my dashboard, because you do a Kickstarter, you can see the people that are following it to back later to get a reminder, right? I have 267 that are watching it. It's almost double the amount of people that have backed. If they all backed it in digital, we would get a hardcover out of this right now.
Is that common in your Kickstarters that you've seen?
Yep. Yeah. And usually it seems to be about half-ish of that number end up converting by the end of it for the Kickstarters I've done.
Okay, well,
However,
that's decent.
So far, this is the most successful Kickstarter that I've done, and I think there's a few reasons for that. Usually I cap out in the $2,000s to $2,000 to $3,000 range with around 130-ish backers, right? A part of that is because usually I run these things, half of them that I've run, I ran for Zine Quest.
Right.
And even during the first Zine Quest, there was so much going on.
Oh, yeah.
People dropped it or cut back to just getting a digital form because they had so much more. Last year for Zine Quest 3, it was my lowest Kickstarter, flat out, because so many people went to just digital or canceled because they were backing so much stuff that this year I said, I'm not doing Zine. It didn't even become Zine Quest. It ended up being, the community-driven Zine month. And I spent way too much money during that, but I didn't take part because I said, I know what happened the last time. I'll wait a few months.
I think that's smart.
And I'll wait for the OSC Kickstarter for the new box sets to be done too, and start hitting people then. And that, I think, is a part of the reason. The fact that Evelyn has her own following of people that are going to back because they know she's getting something out of it. That has a factor. And I think also the level of popularity that, OSC has gotten to from the first Kickstarter I ran for OSC to now is exponential. We went from, maybe there were 1,000-ish people then to, like I said, the OSC community, the OSC group on Facebook has over 5,000 members now. So the amount of people following it is far greater than what it was.
Which is double the amount of people that I actually thought existed in the OSR. So I think everything there's more of all of it, right? So that's cool.
I think that I recently listened. I've been catching back up on your show. I listened to an episode with Tim Shorts on the other day on the way to work. And I think you had said during that at some point, that you don't believe that. But some of the grognard naysayers that 5e and the new games are never going to attract people over here. I have seen exactly the opposite of that. That people come in as a gateway through the newer games and then they start looking and they go, oh, there's a whole nother world about games. It's not unlike when I was younger and I started playing D&D and then said, oh, this company just put out D6 Star Wars. This
what's
company
Warhammer?
What's Warhammer? What's RuneQuest? What's Call of Cthulhu?
Yeah, it's a gateway, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And all the people that tried to stop that to begin, I think that they've been proven wrong by this point. For sure. All right, man. So what do you think? This is a segment where I always ask, well, not always, but it's a newer segment, I guess. Legacy or epitaph in the old school realm? So you can choose what your legacy is, or like what would you want your epitaph to be?
Oh, man. That's
deep. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. So my legacy, I don't know.
You can only choose one or the other. You don't have to do both.
I don't know what I would want my epitaph to be. It'd probably be something about how this dude brought Halloween to D&D or some shit. But
all right, that's cool.
More legacy. I don't even know on that either because I've been involved in so much over the past 10 years with the OSR, from when I was Gamers and Grognards and running Swords and Wizardry Appreciation Day to, everything that I'm doing now. I really don't know.
All right. Well, that's cool. I mean, this is a surprise. This was on here before.
my legacy is probably, he's that guy that did the damn module that there's 20 billion different versions of out there with the goats on the cover, but
I don't know if you're the only person, maybe when you add the goats part, but there's some other people that seem to like to do a bunch of them. All right, cool. So give me a little time here to thank my patrons. I always give a shout out to 3. I picked 3 of the most recent ones: William Walters, Robbie Mack, and Barry Furcus. Thanks so much for being a patron of Hobbs and Friends, or the Gamerhood, whatever it is I do now, I guess. If you want to become a patron, head over to patreon.com/OSRN Hobbs. If you want to find me, I have a Facebook page. It's called Hobbs and Friends. I'm on the Twitters at OSRN Hobbs, or my personal at Hobbs Indeed. Do you you want to? You can put anything you want in the show notes, and then I'll post that out to all the patrons. And like, you're on Twitter, right?
Yep.
I'm almost positive I've seen you on there. You want to go ahead and say what your Twitter handle is, or
how
how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to talk to you about your Appendix N?
Okay, so if people really want to get a hold of me, you go to www.appendixnentertainment.com. On appendixnentertainment.com, you have an option to contact me directly through an email that'll email me directly there. You have the option to follow me on Facebook. You have the option to follow me on Twitter. It's all right there. Nice, easy click links. And you have the option to follow our newsletter, which is essentially the blog that runs on the front of the website. And it'll update you through your email every time that we put something new up there. And while you're there, you can click in. We've got our store link directly there and take a look at what we've got out there now.
Awesome, man. I'll take this one last thing to talk about this. Todd LeBack sent me this. It's Third Kingdom Games. It's the Basilisk Hills compiled hexes. He's got another Kickstarter going. If you don't know how to do your own hex crawls, you might want to check out Todd LeBack's stuff. So
it's really great stuff, and Todd's a really good dude.
Super nice guy, and I think he's got a lot of stuff in a lot of different things that you can check out. So I wanted to definitely give him a shout out. Any last words for the podcast before we go, Ryan?
Yeah, go over, check out the Kickstarter. I hope that more people back it. If you are new to our products, I have a deep discount tier up there where you can get everything that we've put out to date in PDF for super cheap compared to if you bought them all individually. And I've got a physical reward tier where you get everything that we put out in PDF and everything that is currently run in print, because we have a couple titles that are not in print anymore and I don't plan to bring back to print. But you get everything that we put out, including the new one, for I think $60, and that's a fairly deep discount on everything. So
all right, you guys heard it here first. Go check it out. Other than that, stay alive. You got a job to do. It's better to burn out than to fade away, and we'll let TJ see us off.
It's a beautiful day in the game, oh, a beautiful day for my gamers. Would you be one? Could you be one? Shout about plunder, but don't despair. This colony's breeding great robbers. Would you be one? Could you be one? If the 80% mortality rate works for you, for a few bucks a month you can sign up and have the Hobbs kill you. So let's make the most of another Sunday. Brew up some coffee and play it my way. Would you be mine?
All right, that's good enough for that. Anyone who's still here, we'll do some question and answers as long as Ryan wants to hang out and until my wife says it's time for bed. All right, so it looks like Alan had a few things to say. If you know who he is, he says he's a big fan of yours.
Yes, Alan, I saw he's the one that messaged me directly. I told you on Facebook when we were having our difficulties earlier.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, guys, we started an hour late. Sorry about that. Half of the stuff I had.
Oh, you know what? I'm pretty sure that this is Ellen who's given me a bunch of good reviews on my Etsy shop too. I'm willing to bet, right?
Anarch 456, good work, sir. He said his wife says it's time for bed. He's got to go. Thanks for hanging out, Anarch 456. Honey Bunny 1999 says fingers crossed for you, Ryan. So thanks, Honey Bunny.
Thank you.
And Beast King asked if I was ever going to do reviews. So I had a blog, a short-lived blog, and I did one review on Dr. Holmes's book that his son put out with Black Blade Publishing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Peril something?
It's this one right here.
It is by John Eric Holmes. Yep,
Tales of
Tales of Peril. And
Lucky that I had that right next to me.
it's pretty awesome.
My bookshelf is right here.
I have one behind me, but it's not on there. It's only got, select things. It's very organized. Nah. But anyway, it wasn't I didn't feel like it was the greatest piece of literature. And I don't know how to say if I don't necessarily think something's as good as maybe the author or some other people feel that it is. I'm not 10-foot pole. But I have considered it. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? Think it's a good idea going into reviews?
I had a difficult time with it when I tried to review stuff back before I was Appendix N, when I was Gamers and Grognards. It was always, well, this is my friend's thing, so I'm going to give it the good review. And chances are, if it was my friend's thing that I was friends with for a reason, right, I was going to like it anyway because we're into similar shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, there's somebody that was working with Bruce Hurd wrote a book about writing gazetteers and sent it to me. Just said, hey, we want you to review this. I wasn't even doing this was early on in Gamers and Grognards. This was like first year, right? I hadn't done a review. I hadn't intended to do a review. Like, here, and sent me the PDF. Like, well, first of all, I don't always I can use a gaming book PDF if I'm running a game online and have it up on the screen, right? But if I'm going to actually read something like that, I'd rather have a book or something in my hand. It wasn't formatted good for tablets or anything either, so it was like, and I'm reading it, and I was like, I didn't even ask to do this. You just sent this to me. And I finally got back to her. I'm not going to review this. I haven't done a review yet. I'm not crazy about it. I don't want to give you a bad review because it's probably handy for somebody. Mm-hmm. But I don't plan on writing a full-out gazetteer anyway at this point in my life. And, so I've tended to avoid because of things like that. And also, again, like I said, it's like, just because this isn't for me doesn't mean somebody's not going to like it. Like today, if I were to start doing reviews for some reason, there's stuff out there that I think looks really cool, but I can't personally use at the table. So, case in point, Mark Borg. It's a really cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a buddy who ran it for some of us, and it was fun. I cannot personally use that book at the table. It looks great. It looks great as like a heavy metal magazine, and I would read it as a heavy metal magazine, but I cannot use that thing at the table. It hurts my brain. I love it. I love the way that it looks. I love the artistry of it, but I can't use it as a gaming book, so I'd have to give it at least a partially bad review for that. I like my gaming books to be clean and concise and easy to use at the table. I don't find that to be easy to use at the table. And there's a lot of that, a lot of the art punk stuff out there that I'll actually buy to look at it as a work of art. But there is no way I'm ever going to run this because it hurts my brain to try to use it.
I used to call that the art house version of the OSR.
Yeah,
back in the day. That's what I used to call it. Stuff that's not for playing; it's just for looking at.
And I love it, but it's I can't. Like, I like art house stuff. I like things that are just works of art. We've got a big piece of work of art coming out. Can't say coming out, but that we're going to work on, and hopefully we're going to do something with next year. But we're off the air. I'll talk about it.
Well, we are on the air. We're on my Twitch stream still, but we're not on that podcast. But you can do whatever you want.
So the 9 people listening right now, you're sworn to half secrecy on this.
Well, it'll be on my YouTube channel too, but
well.
I only have 350 subscribers, so don't worry.
Maybe I won't talk about it yet then.
Oh,
but, yeah. So
want us to twist your arm? Come on, man, let's go. Give us a piece.
So Stacy contacted me the other day. Stacy Joy, my artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clarify that because I talked to Delorfano too from time to time, right? She was involved for a little bit with UConn. Contessa fell apart, so she's not. But I'm getting off on a different tangent now, right? But Stacy Joy contacted me out of the blue, said, "Hey, when we used to hang out all the time, like you used to be into reading about occult stuff and shit. Like, yeah, I did. I want to do a cyberpunk tarot deck. It's like, would you be interested in publishing that? I'm like, hell yes, I'd be interested in publishing that.
That'd be
like,
cool.
Would you write the book to go along with it? Just like the little booklet that tells you how to use it? Yeah, sure. She's like, good, because I actually taught myself how to fucking read tarot cards so that I could illustrate a tarot deck. Like, well, you have to know Stacy, because that is like the most Stacy Joy thing in the world. When she said that, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like you. Yes, I can totally see that happening. Like, I didn't know that you did that, but I fully believe that, because that sounds like a you kind of thing to do. So good, because I don't know who else would want to publish this. I'm like, sure, yeah, let's start doing it. And I contacted a company that prints tarot cards just to get her templates to know how much bleed around the edge of the card she needs and crap, so she can start doing test illustrations, get her sizing right. And I started thinking about it because, so if you've read Oktoberfest, half of that book, I talk about old pagan Halloween celebrations, and half of that book is a witchcraft supplement for D&D, because I decided going into this with Appendix N that I was going to put out some products that were going to have in them what they always used to tell you D&D had in it, but D&D didn't really have in it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop real world occult shit into my D&D in this. Because why the
You're
hell
not the first person. I mean,
know,
Zach used to talk about it a lot too, I think.
That's true. So.
All right. I'm going to head over to YouTube and see what people have to say. So we got Brian in the Park and Fred Daniel over there. Andrew Swanson says that 5e paved his way to the OSR. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome. I hope you know that the idea that all OSR people are grognards who are not welcoming, that is not true, because Ryan and I are both two of them who are very welcoming and would say, let's go, let's play whatever you want to play and have a great time.
The old grognards used to make fun of me because they told me that I was too young, that I was running Gamers and Grognards, the blog, and they told me I was too young to be a grognard because, I think that was 12 years ago. So yeah, I started that. No, not 12. It was 10 years ago, 2012. So yeah, I was only 31 when I started that damn blog. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, but I started gaming when I was like 7 or 8 years old, man. So
what are you going to do?
I was playing AD&D and Basic, and
don't let people tell you who you are or what you can do, because that's just garbage.
Yep. Like, yeah, and even if I started playing it yesterday, I might like it and understand it a lot more than I do with the new shit, right? That's a possibility. But
Fred Daniel says, great stream, guys. Best entertainment value I know of. Thank you so much, Fred. You are a stalwart supporter of the YouTube channel. That's why I was glad I haven't been multi-streaming to YouTube and Twitch before, because my computer wasn't up to it, but I changed the hard drive, and now we are purring, Ryan. Purring out here. This is now that I got the video driver fixed as well.
Yeah.
we're kicking it.
I informed y'all on Facebook that this thing was held back because of technical difficulties, and it was.
Yeah, we weren't lying to you. Honestly, some people would have given up, I think, if all that was going on. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we started on time from the original time we talked about, though.
Yeah,
we originally said it was going to be 8 Central, and we started around 8 Central.
All right. So Beast King 1980 says, I agree with you on Morkborg. I couldn't see it as a gaming book as well. Found it hard to read. I have Morkborg. I don't know if I've opened it. I would play it. But most of my stuff I run with Low Fantasy Gaming or OSE almost exclusively. But I'm starting to look at Suede. You ever play Savage Worlds, Ryan?
Yes, I played it a few times. I've liked what I've played. Not so much, enough to make a huge jump over to it, though.
Well, the only reason I'm looking at it is because one of my buddies was like a diehard Champions guy, but he's finally agreed with me that he just doesn't have time to write for Champions and Hero System anymore. And he's like, he wants a generic system, and he wants to be able to build things, and this is what he thinks. I'm like, all right, man, I've had the book here for a year or so. I'll check it out.
That's another thing. And I'll get you, and the listeners can know this, I'll get you a copy if you ever want to play test it when we start going to a beta with it. Since about 2 years before COVID happened, and we kind of put it on hiatus when COVID locked the stuff down, I've been working on a house system. OSC is still what I'm going to write fantasy for, but the whole thing that started happening with Stranger Things coming out, with games coming out that were kids on bikes fighting the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried all of them, and none of them sit 100% for what I want for that, right? So I started writing a cinematic-based game. Also, I'm a big David Lynch fan, and for a long time I was looking for a system that could emulate his weird-ass crap, and never found anything that could emulate his weird-ass crap. So I made a super rules light cinematic system that we're calling, and I've got a trademark on it now, the Six Success System, because it uses all D6s. It's kind of akin to the old West End Games D6 system they use for Star Wars and their generic games and whatnot, but not quite that, right? It's simpler and more scaled back. A lot of what I looked to for it was the games Touch of Evil and Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror, the skill system that they use in those games, where you roll a few D6s and your successes are on a 5 or a 6, right? But it's super flexible. The first iteration that we're going to put out is going to be the Kids on Bikes version, which is going to be called 1980X. The whole thing is super lightweight. Beyond the wall played a role in this too, because the way you create characters in that game anyway, and I think in all of the other iterations, including the generic, is you create characters together at the table.
Mm-hmm. And the setting, right?
Yep. You roll your, and it's just like that, because in 1980X, we play tested the first round of it at UConn, and everyone except for like a couple people that I haven't talked to and don't know who they were that came to that session, we played that thing for like 6 hours. It was supposed to start at 8 and end at midnight. Everybody had such a blast. We ended up playing it till like 2:00 in the morning. Go around the table, you roll your stats. You choose in 1980X, it's a kid-based archetype, right? And it doesn't have to be from a supernatural movie. It can be from anything. So if you want to base your archetype off, your archetype is the bad boy and your Bender from the Breakfast Club, right? You roll your stats. You've got 6 stats, 3 physicals, and 3 mentals. You calculate your attack values are the average of your physicals.
What if you're not old enough to know these 1980 stuff? Like, what was
There's an Appendix N in it. There's an Appendix N at the back of everything that I write, man.
Well, that makes sense, but who the movie Gleaming the Cube?
Yes.
I can't even think of the actor, but he played like Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh in Young Guns 2, and he's in a ton of 80s movies. But his character in there was like, I would be like, hey, I want to be that dude from, I don't know why I can't think of his name, but that would be fun just talking about that, to be honest.
We had Andrew Hooks, who he runs a lot of stuff he's a really good guy. He runs a lot of stuff at various conventions. He goes to UConn, he goes to GaryCon, lives in Chicago. He was the first guy. He wanted to play a character that was a combination of Ali Sheedy's weirdo from The Breakfast Club and Mike from Stranger Things. So he wanted to have the weirdo and the geek thing going on. His wife played Johnny from The Karate Kid. So she was walking around with a pair of nunchucks beating up on her husband's character the whole time. We had a guy that was based on Marty McFly. And that was fun because the
dad or the son?
The son.
The son.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox's character.
He came to be, everybody at the table ended up, he didn't call him Marty McFly, it was 2 other M names, right? And by the time we got done with character creation, running around the table with everybody, with me going, all right, you experienced this weird thing in the forest when you were, when you were like 10 years old. How did you guys handle it? Okay, when situations like that arise, you get a bonus to your rolls if you're together during it, right?
Nice.
And for our age group, for people from who are about 40 now through their mid 50s, right? This particular game seems to come really natural, and every session we've run of it with anybody, we can meet strangers at a bar and play this. And it's like a magical experience where everybody just falls into it. And a part of it is, I think, we know those movies.
The nostalgia
and
factor.
we also know what it's like to be a kid then, right?
Yeah.
And there's also this particular version of the game, you know, with the kids on bikes thing, the shit that you do at the table with table talks and jibing your buddies and everything plays naturally into that because the kids are going to be doing that anyway. So people that I play D&D with regularly in my bi-weekly game group who don't role play, period. They are not role players. They're strictly tactical and adventuring players. That's what they do. They sit back, and when stuff happens, they do their thing, right? Got so into role playing in this game as their characters, it's unreal. And everybody that keeps playing is like, yeah, no, those first people were right. This is like a magical experience. I'm like, I think for us it's a magical experience because it's taken us back to, right?
Nostalgia is so powerful, man.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, my daughter found out about it and she's like, oh my God, I didn't know you were making a game like this. And she's tried to play D&D a couple times, but it's just kind of not her thing. She kind of pretends to try avoiding some of the geeky stuff a little bit. She's in middle school and she's a girl, and you know, so.
But I thought it was super in now.
You know, that happened, and she's like, "Oh my God, Dad, this is like Stranger Things and the Goonies and Monster Squad." I'm like, "Yes, it is." She's like, "I didn't know you were making a game like this." Like, yep. I'm like, but it's not just this, because this system, you could do anything, any kind of archetypes you want. You could do superheroes with this. You can do, you know, we're going to do this. And then the second part of it is probably going to be an action movie style thing, because there's not a ton of that out there, you know, but everything about the game ends up being so cinematic, and the rules are made to be that way too, right? It's made to be cinematic. You get investigation points in it, which you can spend where if you can't figure something out to make something up because it's a combination of an adventure style role-playing game and a story game, right? All at once in this thing. Like, you make the town, you make your characters. The way modules are going to be set up, we've figured we're going to call them trailers since it's cinematic, and they're going to be short. You're going to get, you know, a map of the locales, important points, you know, that should happen somewhere in the game, probably, right? Depending on what the players do, what the basic plot is, if there's a villain, what's the villain or the monster or whatever's goals, so that you can work this all out. So you just get the main points, just like watching a movie trailer. And then you put it all together when you start character creation, right? So
sounds cool.
It's good experience, and within the next year, we're going to be trying to probably get some beta rules out into people's hands to play test, because I've run every session so far, and I want to see, you know, some of the playtesters from conventions I've got with a mailing list right now, so that, you know, I can get it into the hands of people that have played it already and see what they do with it and see the feedback that I get from their groups. But then I want to get it into the hands of people who have no experience with the game at all.
Yeah.
So that I can figure out,
you need to see if they can play it off of what you've written.
Yep. So
yeah, for sure.
There's going to be a very rough set of beta rules that are going to be ready in the not too distant future, whatever that means. I mean, I've got so much on my plate right now. I keep trying to get back to that, but we decided to put it on hiatus when everybody started locking down during COVID, because you can play it online, but I feel with the experiences I've had online and in person, it plays a lot better when you're sitting around around an actual table with people for some reason.
Well, because everyone can talk at once around the table and do their jibes and whatever. Maybe it's a lot harder to do that online.
Especially when you're dealing with the kids on bikes genre, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of it.
Yeah.
But
for
yeah,
sure.
so that'll be out. But I mean, I've got so much going out from this Kickstarter that's running right now. I've got, since I put open submissions out there for people to send me submissions for things, because I started to look at my catalog and said, I need more stuff. But being almost a one-man show, except for artists and an editor, you know, between layout to shipping to everything else, it's like, all right, I can't write it and lay it out and this because it just takes too long for me to go more than a couple things out in a year.
Yeah.
You know, that
That's
I
the
need
price,
to,
right?
that
Publishing,
I need to
man.
start farming talent out. And I got a fairly healthy, for being as small as I am, a fairly healthy amount of people that came to me and said, I want to publish with you.
That's pretty cool.
One person is Robert Groves, the TBD bio editor that's on the Kickstarter page for Creature Collection, submitted to me. They submitted like an almost complete manuscript. Like, there is not much that's going to have to be done to this thing to make it work already, which is great. They also became an editor because that was seriously their job. Until recently, was a HarperCollins editor.
Nice.
Literally edited the dictionary.
Oh my
Like,
God.
you're hired.
That's good, but that'd be painful.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, you're hired.
All right. It's been awesome, man. I've been enjoying the conversation. It's always great to catch up with you. No one's really talking to us. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know if we're that boring or like, hey, I mean, it's late. Like Anard456 said, his wife says it's time for bed.
Yep.
All right, man. So like I say, I appreciate it. Hold on for a second. I want to make sure I get all the files for the podcast. But other than that, I think I'm not going to force the music on you guys again. I want to thank everyone for being here. As always, thank you, Ryan, for taking the time to do the pre, post, and watching me fiddle with my settings.
Yep. We'll leave that to everybody's imagination.
There you go. All right, guys. Honey Bunny, 1999. Good to meet you. Follow up if you feel like it. Also, this podcast will hopefully be coming out within the next week or so. You guys can all check it out there.